Hey guys, subscribe for daily content, and if you're shopping for gear, make sure you check out the description for the newest items at some of the very best online retailers. There's also links for some of the items that I personally recommend. Thanks!
What's going on YouTube? Metal Complex here, and today I've got another interesting knife review / knife overview to share with you guys. This is the Bestech Spanish tip razor designed by Jason Clark. If you go back far enough on my channel, you'll find that well, it wasn't really a review. I did a overview and presentation of a custom Spanish tip razor. That is the only reason I'm familiar with this at all. This is really cool, and it really surprised me. I really thought that this would be kind of ho-hum, and I'd be like, oh, they're, you know, the whole flipper cleaver thing. No, this is really impressive. So I'm going to link it right down below. You guys can check it out. It should be available right now. If you want to check it out for whatever reason, the link's right down there. Thanks so much to Nuprin_EDC for sending this in for review. Please give him a follow. It's because of people like him that I'm able to bring you guys daily knife content. Thanks to my generous patrons. There's a link for Patreon right down below. I don't know why I pointed at my card. Please follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. Let's go ahead and get a measurement of this guy. Not a small knife, not a massive knife, but definitely not a small knife. 8.5 inches overall is what I'm getting here, maybe 8.4. Blade length is coming in at, wow, 3.75. Yeah, cutting edge, 3.5 inches. How about some size comparisons up against the Ontario Rat Model 1 and the Ontario Rat Model 2? You can see there it's about the same overall length as the Rat 1. How about up against the Spyderco PM2 and the Spyderco Para 3? You can see here, a little bit longer than the PM2, definitely longer than the Para 3. Sorry, my Para 3 is quite dirty. Got a workout here a few days ago. Last but not least, the Benchmade Griptilian, or in this case, the Ritter Hogue, and the Benchmade Bug Out. Definitely still a little bit larger than, well, at least the larger the Ritter Hogue. Definitely larger than the Bug Out. Let's go ahead and do carry profile. Look at that action. Yeah. Wow. That's real nice. No, it's not loose. No, it is not off center. That is some nice action. Wowzers. Thickness up against the Spyderco Para 3. Yeah, it's a little thick. How about back on this end? Yep. Thick in the booty as well. There's just a lot. The scales and the titanium liners, the backspacer, right, to accommodate for all this. It's got titanium bolsters. Yeah. It's not Medford thick, but it is thick. So, you know, that's something to consider if you're going to pick this up. Now, this way, though, it's still, you know, as far as length, it's still not quite as long. Like the PM2 is a little tiny bit longer, even including the flipper tab or this point back here, right? Not quite as tall as the PM2 area with the flipper tab, right? So, if you're looking at this going, oh, it's going to be too big. If you've been carrying the PM2 or Para 3, right, looking at it this way, not too big of a deal, but it definitely is thicker. Materials, in this case, we are looking at, this is the natural micarta version. If you clicked on that link down there and it took you to this version, it looks really vibrant brown. It's not that intense. I don't know why that picture is so intense. This is the natural micarta, and it looks nice. It's, you know, not quite so brown. I guess that's what I said. That's all I'm saying. There's some other versions of it. They've got, if you like the blacked out blades or the black wash blades, they've got those. They've got some with carbon fiber, black titanium, all that. Anyways, we are looking at M390, some titanium bolsters that are separate from the liners, titanium pocket clip, and some micarta. As far as milling on the inside, there is actually a little bit. These are skeletonized titanium liners. I don't know if you can see. Let's get my flashlight out and get some light on there. Can you see? Yeah, they are skeletonized through to the micarta. So they did remove some weight from it for sure. Let's go ahead and weigh it here. Weight coming in at 4.52 ounces, which isn't bad at all. Ratios are not perfect, but as far as an object this size, not a big deal, right? For some of you, that's going to be too much. The knife itself is going to be too big, too heavy, too thick. Probably not going to be a great thing in athletic shorts or super duper tight pants. Everybody else will probably be okay as long as you can legally carry it. Hardware check. Let's go ahead and get out my tools. As per usual, my tools are very inexpensive and very recommendable. You can find them right down in the description where I talk about my tools. I believe these are all T6 screws, which is kind of a bummer. If you want to adjust the pivot, you have to take off the screws for the bolster plates here. which sucks, but okay, it's not that big of a deal. A lot of screws, whole bunch of screws. You're going to be dealing with that. Make sure you've got quality tools, and I would recommend a place to put the screws. Honestly, a magnet works out really well, or like like I use my angle square, a magnet inside of a Tupperware container that's the best way to do that. But it's up to you. However you want to keep or lose your hardware is your own business. Let's see here. Is that everything? Yeah, let's go ahead and talk about the knife. So, the whole like flipper cleaver thing, I don't know when it started. It was really popular for a while, and then it kind of like fell back. Now it's kind of its own thing. Like companies do it, and some people are just like, oh, cleaver. And you know, but it's not like this thing that is just massively on fire anymore. I think most people buy blades like this for aesthetics. Now, the benefit here with it not having a tip, and I don't know the history but behind the Spanish tip. This isn't a history YouTube channel, right? I have no idea what the history behind this is. But the nice thing here is that without a tip, you're definitely less likely to accidentally poke yourself. Is this still sharp? Is this still a tip of sorts? Well, yes, it absolutely is. You can still dig into the side of packages. You can even poke into things a little bit, but not in the same way that you can with a blade like this or a blade like this. It does not have the same poking utility. So if you find that what you're using your knives for daily are really just sort of opening packages or just continuous cutting tasks, right, then you may not need a tip. I would say I do less puncturing on a day-to-day basis than anything else, which is why I've maintained that for me, the most utilitarian blade shapes tend to be Wharncliffe or sheep's foot blades. I don't need the tip quite as much, so something like this would still work for me. It is a straight edge. A lot of people would say that this is a variation of Wharncliffe blade. Whatever you classify it as, it's basically a sharpened rectangle. There's no, you know, there's no tip. It's not going to puncture like the, you know, like a blade like this would. It's not going to do that, right? It still didn't. I didn't get it hard enough. This is the thing that I keep the scalpel in. If you guys have never seen that. But yeah, so the blade is that. Now, we didn't check blade stock thickness. Let's measure that. It's not. I'm not going to call that a thin blade stock. Yeah, here we go. So, whoops-a-daisy. Let's zero out. Come on now. Zero. There we go. 130, 135 thousandths. Not too thick, not too thin. That's kind of an in-between, right? Fully flat ground. There's a decent amount of room for it to taper down to the edge. And the edge is reasonably thin, but it's not like, oh my gosh, it's a laser beam. You cut with it real quick, and I'll give you a demonstration. The paper cut test doesn't prove much other than how efficiently it can slice through something like paper. And you know what? Wow, it's actually pretty darn smooth. What I'm looking for here when I'm slicing is edges of the paper that are frayed because the edge isn't quite thin enough, or maybe it's tearing. But, you know, truthfully, wow. Yeah, this is actually pretty nice. It's pretty readily... That's way, way nicer than I thought. Boy, it doesn't feel that thin. Bestech obviously did a decent job at the very apex of this for like a, ooh, wow. That's really sharp. That actually dug into my, I did that a little quickly there. That edge buried itself in my fingernail just now. Yeah, okay, wow, that's very sharp. That just proves that you can't always judge exactly how you know, capable that edge is going to be by feeling it at the edge. The last little bit of the apex is really gonna determine that. That is wickedly sharp. Holy moly. So, and this is, can I get it to focus on the, yeah. So there was a part of me that thought it was hollow ground, but it isn't. It is flat ground. And I'm looking at, yeah, this curvature right here gives the impression that it is hollow. But if I could get it to focus straight in, you can see, yeah, without, you know, taking the third dimension out of that triangle there, you can see that it is flat ground on both sides. Wow, really sharp. That was not a pleasant feeling. It didn't get all the way through, but the distinct feeling of the edge burying itself in that fingernail, it actually did. What I'm saying is it started to cut through the surface. I don't think I've ever experienced that before. That's a very... that blade is a lot sharper than I thought it was going to be. This area up here is uncomfortably sharp, right? This will absolutely shave your fingernails. But then again, you're not really going to be interacting with this area much. This is why I'm sick of satin finishes. I don't like how they look as much, and I also don't like how uncomfortably sharp that is. I just wish it was tumbled. I think it would look better. Bestech does an excellent tumbled finish, but okay. It says on this side, Bestech, and then I think it says Bestech Knives, and then Jason Clark's logo right there, and then M390. Pretty nice on the presentation. We're not having to look at much, right? So yeah, there's still a tip. That curvature there allows it to be a little more of a tip than if it were just a perfect rectangle. So that's nice. You can still get into packages. A lot more utilitarian than you might think. Ergonomics. This is one of those not quite a full choil thing, like not a safe place to put your finger. Just take out another 1/4 inch of the blade and let me choke up on it. That's better. Like if we're going to have this area, like just make it a full choil. This isn't safe. I don't feel comfortable with just one knuckle in there, right? So I'm going to be back here behind the guard, the flipper tab, which brings me about 3/4 of an inch away from the initial cutting edge. Not that big of a deal, but you're quite a ways away from the blade. Fortunately, there's nothing in the cutting path, so you're okay. It is comfortable, but we have some pretty aggressive peaks here. Not super aggressive. They're less than suggestions, though. They're closer to commands as far as where they want your fingers. So, and I know that this is critiquing the original design of the Spanish tip razor because I think it has the same areas here. This, I just wish this was knocked down a little bit more so that if I wanted to adjust back, I wasn't like, you know, knocking these peaks down a little bit, you're still going to lock in. You're just not facing the same type of like, you know, it's like, put your hands right here. It is comfortable though. And the pocket clip is nice and flat and knocked down. So where you are supposed to put your hands, it's plenty comfortable, right? I mean, if you're going to, you know, if I had to use something like this for hours on end, yeah, I would wear gloves because some of these areas are a bit sharp, but yeah, it's nice. Disengagement is great. There's no double clutch. Action is ridiculously smooth and it's very snappy. There's a nice detent click as well. I'm going to call this about a medium detent. It's appropriate for this knife, right? Can you shake it out? Yeah, I don't always demonstrate this. A little bit. It takes a little bit to do it, but you can. It's not really that big of a deal. I'm not, generally, knives aren't being jostled around in my pocket with that type of force, right? I'm, you know, I'm not somebody who does river dancing on stage while I carry a knife, so I'm not generally concerned with that happening. This is a I'm sorry. It's a titanium liner lock, which I love. And there is a little steel lock bar insert in there. Let me get the flashlight back out again. Can you see it? Yeah, a little steel lock bar insert in there. I just love that. There's no exposed lock area over here. Very easy to disengage. They've got it cut just a little bit higher like than this side right here, and this is knocked out. This angle right here is just a tad sharp. Not that big of a deal, right? Pretty darn good access in this area and very safe to engage and disengage considering that flipper tab comes down on your thumb and then you can move your fingers out of the way. But get your fingers out of the way because it is very smooth. That will drop right down on your finger. I love the bolster look. These are separated bolsters. They are not part of the internal liner. Usually what you see is like this is all one piece and then they just have a scale right here. And they could have done that, but didn't. So, okay, it doesn't really matter. There's just a lot of, if you take this apart, there's going to be a lot of pieces, right? But wow, this was done really well and it looks nice. The separation between the bolster and the scale is minimal on both sides and it's all nice and flush back here. No ugly gaps. The backspacer looks good. These are slightly contoured. I think that we could have been a little more chamfered right in here because it's just kind of a sudden angle. Can you see there? It is chamfered. It's just kind of sudden. Looks good. It'd just be a little bit more comfortable considering we are forced to, you know, lock in right here. But yeah, looks great. Pocket clip is nice. It's a little bit more than a stamped and pressed clipped. A little bit more than a stamped and pressed clip, like what you might see on something from Wii nowadays. More like something from Civivi. It looks a little better than that. It's not quite like a full 3D milled clip, but the nice thing is it doesn't need to be. It goes along with the theme of the knife. It's in a good position. Oh no, there's no lanyard hole. Oh no! Moving on. The pocket clip is in an optimal position because it's not in competition with anything useless or stupid. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Lanyard people are like, how dare he dismiss that important element? I'll have you know that my lanyard serves a specific tactical role in my... Okay, fine. It's okay. You can like lanyards. It's okay. I'm just joking around. The pocket clip is in a good spot. It looks good, right? The whole knife has this... This knife really likes rectangles, right? The back of the knife, the blade, the pocket clip, right? There's a lot of rectangles going on here. It looks good. Carry depth is good. Retention's good. It's a titanium clip. It's nice. Where is the stop pin? It's right here. It's the closed position stop pin, and it's also the open position stop pin, and there is a lot of shouldering. You can see how that blade wraps nicely around that stop pin. It's very, very good. Engagement is good. We're seeing, I don't know, what is that, 45, 50%? That's fine. Absolutely no blade play up, down, left, or right. Do we have any pivot lash? We do not. Completely and totally solid and nice. No detent lash in the closed position. Is the blade centered? Yes, it is. Bestech has really stepped up their game from the first knives that I handled. The first knives that I handled from them were good, but this is really nice. All the way around, Bestech is really nice, and they did the Vero isotope, which I was saying, had someone said this was done by Riot, I'll show you that knife right here. Where is it? There. This. Bestech did this. If you told me that this was done by Riot, I would have said, yeah, that makes sense. But I found out it was Bestech, and I was like, wow. Bestech is getting closer and closer and closer to, in my book, indistinguishable from a Riot. Now, this lacks some of the polishing. Like, this is, obviously the isotope is an example of when they go above and beyond, right? So I'm not saying that this Spanish tip razor is on par with a lot of $400 Riots. Like, the feeling of the action and the overall fitment of everything and just, making sure everything's functional, that's all there. But little things like making sure corners are knocked down and just, little edges and things. Not that Riot does a perfect job of that every single time, but there's this. It's not quite as polished as some of the more expensive Riots. But my goodness, I think this is well deserving of the price tag. I'm not always on board. M390 and titanium is not enough to convince me anymore of $250, right? And it shouldn't be for you. You shouldn't be going, what are the materials? Okay, take my money, whatever form it takes. No, you shouldn't be doing that because those are just the materials. That's what we start with. The final product, right? How the form that it takes and how well put together that form was, or how well executed that form is, should help you determine that. But you should also take into consideration, of course, country of origin, manufacturing, right, things like that. So this is made in China, very high quality. This is an example of a high quality Chinese knife. And there's a lot of work. I mean, there's a lot of pieces here that have to be individually made, fit together really well, right? This is a titanium liner lock. And a lot of the stuff that we like, like the 3D milled clip and just the good detent, solidity, all that stuff, it's all there. This is well done for what they, set out to do. It's well done. Do I think it's $248? Do I think that's an appropriate price tag? I mean, as is the case with a lot of stuff that I review on this channel, it could have been $20 less, and I'd be $20 happier, right? But it's not that far off. I've definitely handled $250 knives that are nowhere near as nice, right? $250 will also get you an American knife. That is made with similar materials, right? So I do think, as is the case with a lot of the nicer production Chinese stuff, I do think that it is a bit overpriced, but it's also done very well. This is nice, and I wasn't expecting to really like it. I think overall, a blade with more tip is going to be more utilitarian, right? I'm hesitant to say everybody should rush out and buy this. I don't think it's going to be a knife for everybody, obviously. But if you're looking at this and thinking, I really like how that looks, is it well made? Yes, it is. It's going to be too big for some people. There's some, like I said, there's some unnecessary stuff, and you're probably going to have to pay a little bit too much money for it. But it is well done. And my gosh, that blade is sharp. I actually want to cut more paper with it before I end the video. That it really is just effortless. I'm trying to shave the top of this. I'm trying to get some curly cues for you guys. But that final edge is just ridiculous. Can I get it? Oh, yeah. I wanted to keep that one going as long as I could. Keep going. Oh, I missed it. Cut it. The edge is so sharp it just wants to peel itself away from the spine of the paper. Yeah, that is this is really, really sharp. And I mean, you can see there, it's actually separating the paper, and the paper's just falling immediately below where I'm cutting it. This is ridiculous. That's a sharp knife. I'm assuming they'll all be like that. But yeah, the paper cut test doesn't prove much other than how that final edge interacts with something like paper. No fraying though. Those are clean cuts, and that's a factory edge. It's not a modified edge. That is a factory edge. So, wow, yeah, pretty cool. Not something I can recommend to everybody, but very well done. I would feel better about paying $248 for this versus a lot of other stuff that's out there right now at $248, but still not going to be for everybody. It's just not one of those knives. Very nice though. Thanks again to the gentleman who sent this in for review. Please make sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like. If you'd like to check out my other content, I do, of course, have lots of videos of knives. They're either expensive or inexpensive that I do or don't like, so check those out. And if you enjoy all my content, go ahead and click on that Metal Complex logo right there and subscribe, because there's definitely more coming. Thanks again for watching, everybody, and have a great day.